How's it going, everyone? Luke here, and just doing a quick video on how to test transistors, particularly on a Pinotar board that's currently in our spooky pinball games. Doing this one-handed, so it's going to be a little bit tricky, but I'm going to try to show it off. So first thing you want to do is make sure you set your multimeter to ohms to measure resistance. This one is a variable meter, so it'll automatically adjust for me. But what we're looking for, we know the range we're looking for is going to be around 10 kilo ohms. So whatever is just above that would work for you. But really we're looking for differences, so that's the main thing. So to test these Mosfit transistors here, what we want to do is you want to go take your red lead and put it on the top pin. This is oriented the same way it would be in the game, so you can test these in the game as well, top pin. And then we want our black to be on a ground, one of our grounding pins. So I'm at the test point 3 here, and this one is reading about 10 kilo ohms, which is exactly what we want. Anything that's way off of that is probably bad. So I happen to know this board came back to us bad, and said this one here. So see on this transistor 12, which I believe is the reset drop coil on the Judith lock. So we're looking here, again, nowhere close to 10 kilo ohms. We're at 40 ohms there, so we know that's bad. So more than likely that coil would not fire at all. The other thing that we can test though, so if I test on this big tab here, so again, here's on 11, on the big tab, again, black to ground, we should have basically an infinite resistance there. Anything that's not infinite means that coil is blown open. So if a flipper ever gets locked on, something like that, this can often be the result of it. So going to this bad one again, and I bet we do not read infinite. We do not. In fact, we have almost no resistance. So actually this coil would probably be stuck on. So I don't know what problem happened first, but one problem probably led to the other. So now again, when I'm on the body tab and black to grounding, we are not seeing an infinite resistance there, which is bad. So those are kind of two tests you can do. May do a follow-up video to this, which shows how to actually replace this. Because, I mean, it does take a little bit of a steady hand, but it's not impossible even for the average person to apply some heat, to apply some solder onto here, to remove one of these Mosfit transistors, pluck it off, and put a new one on. Yeah, so again, that might be a little follow-up video I'll do later, but I guess diagnosing problems is probably the first step of that. So I know, I was talking a lot today about people about finding root causes of problems, and sometimes these transistors, whether you're on new games, old games, if I generally have a problem with a coil, one of the first things I often suspect is a transistor. And again, I don't always know exactly what I'm doing when I'm testing old games, but I often look at the transistors and just look for differences between them. So I'll take readings on several of them, and as I notice a difference, usually that ends up being the bad transistor. But there's also people out there smarter than me that have made a lot of great manuals. But again, this is how we test for these particular ones. Again, just go real quick. Top of the leg to ground should be reading about 10 kilo ohms, and tab to ground should be having about infinite resistance. That means that transistor is good. Dylan, who's next to me, wants to actually talk. He didn't want to be on camera, but Dylan, or DJ, one of our new programmers, what did I miss?
You want to test it with the power off and with your coils unplugged from the board.
Sure. So what Dylan is adding is to make sure when you're testing, you do want to disconnect. So this is my, on a Pinotar in a spooky game, this happens to be my blue line, so all of these wires are going to be blue right here. So you do want to disconnect that and test with power off. So when you're doing these tests, power off, you can actually do the first test I showed with the top lead to ground with the power, I'm sorry, with the pins still plugged in. That wouldn't make any difference. But for the body tab, you do want to make sure that's unplugged, but both tests with the machine off. Good point. I think that's about it. Again, I mean, we have a great service team here, so if you run into issues, be sure to give the Spooky guys a call. But other than that, if you want to do some testing, that's basically how to test transistors, MOSFETs with our multimeter. All right, hope that helps.